Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Elevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. I'm Joe Everett with today's farm news. Well, currently it's a chilly 46 degrees outside this morning, and if you weren't convinced harvest season is closing in, well, this kind of weather just might change your mind. It's going to be crisp and cool this morning, but it sure does make it nice to get some things done around the farm. A quick calendar reminder, we will be broadcasting from the Hancock County Fairgrounds thanks to Nutrient Ag Solutions and the Hancock County Farm Bureau. Now let's check in with our own Brianna Smith for this week's Between the Rows.
This week's Between the Rows update is brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct, business with a handshake, not a 3-year contract. The common theme across the state this week is that fields are pretty dry. Let's talk with Joe McCandlish in Fairfield County.
I've definitely noticed some of the earlier maturing corn. It's really starting to get pretty fired up. Some fields that I've noticed, bottom leaves are already dead. With this drier and hotter weather that we've had this past few weeks, it's definitely kind of had a irreversible damage, I guess, to corn and beans. This month, August, we really needed some rain to kind of fill out pods and fill out cobs and stuff like that, and we really just didn't get it.
Next, we'll check in with Doug Dirkscheide in Wood County.
So we're getting pretty dry up in this part of the world. Rains have been real spotty. Guys have gotten a few tenths here and there, but probably really haven't had significant rainfall in close to a month, I'm guessing. So on top of our sand knobs, a lot of the corn is fired up to the ear.
For the full Between the Rows update, visit ohioagnet.com. Reporting for Ohio's Country Journal and Ohio AgNet, I'm Brianna Smith.
Hey, thanks, Brianna, for the update. Well, the first U.S. case of the New World screwworm in a human has been confirmed in Maryland. The CDC says that the patient has recently returned from El Salvador, and the case was identified earlier this month. Officials stress the risk to public health here in the United States is very low, and the patient's condition has not been disclosed. While it is rare in people, the bigger concern is livestock. Screwworm larvae feed only on live tissue of warm-blooded animals. If left untreated, infested animals can die within 2 weeks, and young livestock are especially vulnerable. That's why U.S. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins recently announced constructing a new $750 million facility to produce sterile screwworm flies, a proven method of controlling the pest. Livestock groups like the National Cattlemen's Beef Association were quick to respond, saying the case was handled swiftly under CDC protocols and that there were no elevated risks to livestock herds at this time. USDA officials also emphasized screwworm is not a contagious disease. Eggs are laid by flies in open wounds, and protecting animals is the key to prevention. Stay tuned. We'll be back with today's weather after this.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals. Your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
Are you involved in Ohio agriculture and do not get Ohio's Country Journal in your mailbox? You're kidding, right? Hey, it's Ty Higgins. It's free to subscribe to OCJ, but the information you'll get about current crop conditions, market analysis, new innovations in technology, policy, and more is invaluable. Subscribe or renew your subscription by September 20th, and you could win a $250 Visa gift card. Visit ocj.com/renew to get Ohio's Country Journal and read what you've been missing.
You're tuning in on the Ohio AgNet. Today's weather brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Dry and pleasant through a large part of this week. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Quick forecast update here in Ohio. Here's what's going on. Another cool and dry day today. Quite crisp as you're getting started this morning. It's going to be the same tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I won't rule out some record lows in parts of Ohio as we move through the early morning hours tomorrow morning. But I really don't think this is a long-term pattern at all. Temperatures starting to moderate a little bit as we move into Thursday. The southwest flow comes ahead of our next frontal boundary. That front moves through Michigan on Thursday, and by the time we get into Thursday evening, trying to push down into northern Indiana and northern Ohio. I don't think we see a lot of precipitation as the front seems to run out of gas when it gets here, but I-70 northward will paint in anywhere from a few hundredths to a few tenths of moisture with coverage at around 60%. That front, though, is going to draw down another round of cool Canadian air, so we are cool and pleasant again for Friday, right on through the Labor Day holiday weekend. We keep the dry weather in here for next Tuesday and Wednesday, although it's a little bit warmer in that stretch. A little bit of instability popping up next Thursday. Frontal boundary on Friday just primes the pump for what I think is going to be an active end to that weekend. From Sunday the 7th through Monday the 8th, I think we have a nice round of shower and thunderstorm action before we turn off and go dry again for the rest of that week. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Well, farmers are feeling the fertilizer pinch. Farm organizations are raising alarms with the White House, saying the ongoing tariff battle is driving already high fertilizer prices even higher. The added costs are making it more difficult for producers to afford planting their usual acres of corn, soybeans, and wheat. According to Politico, many in the ag industry have been reluctant to openly criticize President Trump's trade policies. However, behind the scenes, groups have been lobbying lawmakers and administration officials to help ease the burden of rising fertilizer costs. Fertilizer alone can account for more than 30% of row crop farmers' expenses. The National Corn Growers Association recently sent a letter to U.S. Trade Representative Jamison Greer and other officials, warning that fertilizer prices are reaching disastrous levels. Since January, when the president took office, the average tariff rate on key farm inputs has climbed from just under 1% to more than 12% as of August. Some inputs, including pesticides, have increased by 20% or more. Now let's look at the numbers from this week's Ohio Crop Progress Report, which is sponsored by Unleaded 88. Save on fuel with the blue handle. Fill up with Unleaded 88. Discover more at ohiocornandwheat.org. Starting with the national numbers, corn in the dough stage was estimated at 83%, equal to last year, but 1 percentage point behind the 5-year average of 84%. Corn dented was estimated at 44%, equal to both last year and the 5-year average. Corn matured was pegged at 7%, 3 points behind last year's 10%, but equal to the 5-year average. As we turn to the crop condition, estimated that 71% of the crop was in good to excellent condition nationwide, unchanged from the previous week. Now, as we turn to soybeans setting pods were estimated at 89%. That is 1 point ahead of last year's 88% and equal to the 5-year average. Soybeans dropping leaves were pegged at 4%, 2 points behind last year's 6% and equal to the 5-year average. As for their crop condition, 69% of the soybeans were in good to excellent condition, up 1 point from 68% the previous week and up 2 points from 67% the previous year. Now, as we take a quick look at the winter wheat harvest progress nationwide, it inched ahead 4 percentage points last week to reach 98% complete nationwide as of Sunday. That is 1 point behind last year's 99% and consistent with the 5-year average. Now, looking at your numbers from the Buckeye State, Ohio's crop is progressing very much in line with the 5-year average. Let's start with corn. Corn in the dough stage this week is rated at 87%. That is just 6 points ahead of the 5-year average of 81%. Corn dented is pegged at 35% this week. That's 2 points ahead of the 5-year average of 33%. And corn matured is at 2% this week. That is equal with the 5-year average. As we look to soybeans, they find themselves at 92% setting pods this week, though none yet have been noted to be dropping leaves. As for the crop condition, Ohio's corn crop is rated at 76% good to excellent, and soybeans are rated 62% good to excellent. For more details on the Ohio Crop Progress Report, you can find that today at ohioagnet.com. Well, the ethanol industry is only partially satisfied with the latest EPA action on small refinery exemptions, or SREs, from the Renewable Fuel Standard through last year. The EPA granted 140 full or part-time exemptions, denied 28, and declared 7 ineligible. But the Renewable Fuels Association still claims the granted exemptions should not disturb the marketplace or reduce actual renewable fuel consumption. Though RFA head Jeff Cooper told the annual National Ethanol Conference this year,
together these petitions represent roughly 5.5 or 6 billion gallons of renewable fuel blending requirements. So let me say that again. 5.5, 6 billion gallons are at stake with these petitions.
But today, Cooper's group points out the EPA is granting exemptions to small refineries that have already met their RFS obligations and reallocating exempted volumes for 2023 and beyond. The RFA continues to question whether small refinery exemptions are justified at all.
We are strongly encouraging EPA, and we strongly believe that the agency should continue the judicious and careful approach that it has taken to SRE petitions over the past 4 years. But if any petitions are granted, the exempted volume should be restored and redistributed to ensure the finalized RVOs are kept whole.
Referring, of course, to renewable volume obligations. Oil refiners have challenged SRE denials in the courts for years. The Supreme Court ruled in June that such a national issue belongs before the D.C. Circuit that handles those, not the 12 regional appellate courts, a ruling sought by the biofuel industry. Stay tuned. We'll be back with your grain analysis and your overnight markets after this.
Nearly 90% of farmers say that financial worries, constantly changing market conditions, and other uncontrollable variables take a toll on their mental well-being. Add in the weather and family dynamics, well, it's a lot to handle alone. But did you know farmers and their families can receive free confidential services from licensed professionals? Support is available 24/7 to help with the challenges you face. Look for Farm Family Wellness Alliance under the Resources tab at farmfoundation.org. Take care of yourself. Your well-being matters.
So many things that can have an impact on agriculture are out of the farmer's control. Yet when the weather doesn't cooperate, markets go lower, or equipment breaks down, the farmer blames themselves. Hi, I am Nathan Brown, a Highland County farmer and a member of the Ohio Farm Bureau Board of Trustees. If you or someone you know is struggling with stress on the farm, text 4HOPE to 741-741 or go visit gotyourbackohio.org. A message from the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation.
It's now time for today's market analysis, which is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished off the Monday trading period mixed. Corn and wheat were a little bit higher. Soybeans down overall. As a matter of fact, the weakness in the beans accelerated through the midday and afternoon trading sessions. Double-digit losses noted on both September and November contracts on Monday. Now, the China comments over the weekend about rampant U.S. protectionism, that probably kick-started the market on a move lower. However, there were no new sales in the daily reporting system. It seems like China is rumored to be seeking additional Brazilian soybean purchases for the month of November. Once a purchase is made, you get about 4 to 6 weeks in for execution to take place. It comes down to boats in terms of credit, banking, and all that kind of stuff. So basically, if they're buying now, they're not going to be dealing with any kind of picking up of beans or getting beans until you get well into the later part of the year. And that means our new crop sales opportunity is over, at least through the gut slot of fall harvest. For each week that passes, a week of U.S. soybean export opportunity to China is lost. The U.S. window for soybean exports is generally from September through mid or late January. Once you get into February, it's Brazil new crop that feeds worldwide demand or Chinese demand. So there's concern that we're watching all of this demand go right out through the window. Brokers estimate that funds sold 3,200 contracts of beans, bought 6,100 contracts of corn, 2,300 contracts of wheat. As we move into the corn and wheat side of things here, it's all about continued sales. We had the 2 back-to-back days of decent flash reported sales on corn to non-China partners. Look, Mexico, Colombia, I think Spain was involved last week, and we're expecting more as we move through this week. Low prices generally cure low prices. Low prices get some end users to come in and buy, and that's what we've seen on corn here in the recent week or two. I'm Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Now let's take a look at your overnight trade brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. September corn 388 1/4 down a half. December new crop corn 411 1/4 down a penny. September soybeans 1020 3/4 down 4 3/4. November soybeans 1043 down 4 3/4. As we look at wheat, September 505 1/4 down 1 1/2. As we turn to livestock from yesterday's close, August live cattle 240.22 up 27 cents. October live cattle 236.82 down $1.05. October lean hogs 91.40 up 20 cents. December hogs 84.75 up 37 cents. And September feeder cattle 361.90 down 77 cents. To stay up to date on all the latest agricultural news, you can always find that at ohioagnet.com. Thanks for joining us and have a great day, everyone. You're listening to the Ohio AgNet.